Hey everybody, welcome to Britpops React. You with me, BP1 and BP2. Today we are reacting to Operation Paperclip, where it says how Nazi scientists built America's future, man, by bringing some Nazi scientists across. I mean, yeah, I don't know too much about this, but it is a history one, and we're doing it for
Amanda A, who loves to fill us full of useful knowledge, the things that we've probably missed along the way, weren't tuned into, and gets our knowledge of American items up to speed. So, yes, going back to World War II, I guess this is after the Nuremberg trials and all that sort of thing took place. Getting some intelligent people over to help build other things. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's see. See what it's all about. Brought to you by Proven Conspiracies, which we've done before.
One does not build a stupendous war machine in a fit of passion, nor an Auschwitz factory during a passing spasm of brutality.
What if I told you that in its quest to become the dominant superpower,
there's a lot of people there.
The United States willingly brought more than 1,600 former Nazi scientists into the country?
What these men did was done with the utmost deliberation.
The once powerful Nazi war machinery is slowly crumbling to dust.
Imagine a post-World War II world, where the lines between enemy and ally blur, and the pursuit of power leads to morally questionable choices. That's exactly what unfolded in one of the most controversial operations in U.S. history, Operation Paperclip. It's a story of secret deals, ethical compromise, and the race for global dominance in science and technology.
You who have not seen it do not know what hell looks like from the top. That's what Germany looks like.
As the Third Reich collapsed, the Allies were not only hunting down Nazi war criminals, they were also scrambling to capture Germany's most brilliant minds. Why? Because these scientists had pioneered advancements in everything from rocket technology to chemical weapons, knowledge that could be used to tip the balance of power in a post-war world. The United States and Soviet Union were locked in a shadowy competition, each trying to gain control of these intellectual resources. These men, some of whom had committed horrific crimes, were given new lives, new jobs, and even new identities. Welcome to the dark, ethically fraught world of Operation Paperclip.
Wow,
well set up.
Don't say that he's hypocritical. Say rather that he's apolitical. Once the rockets are up, who cares where they come down? That's not my department, says Werner von Braun.
Almost exactly 16 months after the A-bomb is dropped on Hiroshima, the U.S. Army is about to make its first major test of a ballistic rocket.
Initially known as Operation Overcast, was named for the paperclips that were attached to the files of scientists that the U.S. deemed most valuable. One of the most famous figures to emerge from this operation was Werner von Braun, the mastermind behind the Nazi V-2 rockets that had terrorized Allied cities.
An altitude of 117 miles will be achieved, a world's record. This rocket is not American, however. It is German.
These deadly rockets were designed in part by prisoners forced to work in inhuman conditions at the Mittelwerk factory. Von Braun wasn't just a passive bystander in this atrocity. He personally selected slave laborers from the Buchenwald concentration camp. Yet, despite his Nazi past, von Braun became a central figure in the U.S. space program, eventually helping to develop the Saturn V rocket that took Americans to the moon.
To help show you what is being done to solve these problems, we have called upon one of the foremost exponents of space travel, Dr. Werner von Braun, who is at present the chief of the Guided Missile Division of the Army's Rocket Center at Redstone Arsenal.
Really?
But von Braun was only the tip of the iceberg. Let's talk about some of the other key players in Operation Paperclip and the morally dubious roles they played. Working with von Braun was Arthur Rudolph, who served as a production manager at the Mittelwerk facility. Under his oversight, workers endured brutal conditions, starvation, and inhumane treatment leading to the death of thousands.
Some people believe that the reports of what happened there are exaggerated. No words could exaggerate.
Yet despite this dark past, Rudolph's expertise in rocketry made him an asset to the United States during the Cold War. Brought to America under Operation Paperclip, he became a key figure in NASA's space program, playing a significant role in developing the Saturn V rocket that enabled the Apollo moon landing. For years, he was celebrated as a hero of American science, even receiving prestigious accolades for his work.
Now I'd like to show you a department of our school, which is a logical outgrowth of what you've been seeing.
However, when his involvement in Nazi war crimes resurfaced in the 1980s, Rudolph was forced to give up his U.S. citizenship and return to Germany, largely escaping formal justice. But let's not forget another pivotal player.
For this story, you ought to talk to Dr. Hubertus Strughold.
Strughold had been involved in experiments at the Dachau concentration camp, where prisoners were subjected to cruel and lethal experiments on how the human body responds to extreme conditions. Despite the evidence of his wartime atrocities, Strughold's name was eventually cleared, once again, in the interest of national security.
But in the United States, they given? I mean, he's saying their names. He's saying their German names, right? So
yes.
I thought he said they were going to get a new identity. He's not referencing new identities anywhere. They had that name. I don't know whether they had new identities in America as a different name or what. But what I'm seeing at the moment, not.
States, Strughold became a key figure in NASA's medical program, developing life support systems and astronaut training protocols.
Dr. Strughold, what are the prospects for space travel?
Will not only make routine flight under space conditions in the vicinity of the Earth, but also that he will travel to or around the moon.
Now let's shift to some Nazi doctors, some of whom were even tried at Nuremberg. Dr. Kurt Blom, for example, had been the Deputy Surgeon General of Nazi Germany, overseeing biological warfare research that included testing on prisoners.
Professor Kurt Blomer, the Deputy Health Minister and Plenipotentiary for Cancer Research, favored testing the extract in mice, but Rascher insisted on using human test subjects. Himmler took Rascher aside, and a human cancer testing station was established at Dachau concentration camp.
When captured, Blom was charged with war crimes at the Nuremberg trials, but shockingly he was acquitted, thanks in large part to U.S. intervention.
Taking their places in the famous Nuremberg courtroom, judges of the Allied Military Tribunal begin the trial of minor war criminals.
Minor? You guys would say minor, or would
Otto Ambros. And then there was Otto Ambros, a chemist who had helped develop nerve agents like sarin and taboon for the Nazis.
Wow.
Ambros had overseen chemical plants that used slave labor from Auschwitz, where countless workers perished.
In conquered Poland, Ambros was shown a town where one of Himmler's largest concentration camps had just been built. The town was Oswiecim, known to the Germans as Auschwitz. Ambros found the site otherwise suitable and was particularly interested in the possibility of using the concentration camp inmates to erect the plant, all of which was reported to the other defendants. They agreed.
He was convicted at Nuremberg, but instead of serving his full sentence, he was quietly brought to the United States to work on chemical weapons development.
It's unbelievable.
Ambros was so essential to U.S. military interests that he was even granted a pardon, allowing him to continue his work with impunity. Wow. These men helped shape America's post-war scientific and military achievements, but their pasts were anything but clean.
Ambros was part of the chemical weapons scientists that were of great interest to the United States.
So why did the U.S. welcome them with open arms? The answer lies in the geopolitical reality of the time. The Cold War.
It's like a bit of a different immigration. You know, we've got immigration here.
Yeah,
at the moment.
I mean, you know, obviously, and again, like
with
most
no
countries,
skills.
We're welcoming those with skills that have, you know, can help the country. I guess these guys had years of experience doing, you know, doing all the work, and they knew that otherwise they may fall into Russian hands, and they'll get all the expertise and knowledge. So you know, I guess, like I say, keep your enemies close, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And as you say, you know, all the development work they've done on the rockets and that, again, you know, years ahead of what America had at the time. So straight in and straight on the NASA program.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what it's about, isn't it? What can benefit you as a country doesn't necessarily always mean that it's ethical.
That's it. Yeah, ethically speaking, and as you said, you know, I'm guessing that at the time, like not like now, you know, yeah, they probably kept their same names and everything, but unless you were sort of part of the trials or things like that, you didn't know who they were from anybody else, I guess.
No, very true. All right, let's keep going.
War had begun, and with the Soviet Union snapping up German scientists in its own operation, the U.S. couldn't afford to fall behind.
Yeah.
National security was the justification, and for many, the ends seemed to justify the means. But this operation wasn't just a military endeavor. It was also a covert CIA initiative. The Central Intelligence Agency, newly formed in 1947, was instrumental in facilitating the transfer of these Nazi scientists into the U.S., often erasing or downplaying their Nazi affiliations in the process. Let's explore some of the key figures in the CIA who played significant roles in Operation Paperclip. One of the most notable was Allen Dulles, the first civilian director of Central Intelligence. Dulles was a master of espionage and covert operations, and during his tenure, he prioritized harnessing scientific talent no matter the moral cost.
Yeah.
Mr. Dulles, I know you've heard this many times, that there are people who say that we, with regard to the CIA, are waging a secret war with an invisible government.
We are obviously engaged in many facets of what is generally called the Cold War.
Dulles had been deeply involved in intelligence gathering during World War II as a senior officer in the Office of Strategic Services, OSS, the CIA's precursor. After the war, he became an architect of Operation Paperclip, pushing hard for the recruitment of German scientists. Dulles believed that if the U.S. didn't act quickly, the Soviets would recruit these same scientists, which could have catastrophic consequences in the Cold War.
I'm sure they're saying the same
thing. The
thing.
KGB is one of the most sinister organizations that ever was organized.
Are they any good? Are the Russians good at this?
Oh, yes. Oh, my, yes. You take some of their operations, they're classic.
Then there's John J. McCloy, another key figure in the operation. McCloy had served as Assistant Secretary of War during World War II and was later appointed to the U.S. High Commissioner for Germany, effectively overseeing the occupation of Germany after the war.
John McCloy's had a long life, 90 years, and most of it marked by unparalleled service to his country and humanity.
McCloy was instrumental in negotiating the terms that allowed many of these scientists, including war criminals, to escape prosecution and work for the U.S. government.
Like an agent in the...
And let's not forget about James Jesus Angleton, the infamous head of counterintelligence at the CIA. Angleton, known for his paranoia and obsession with Soviet espionage, viewed the recruitment of Nazi scientists as a necessary evil.
There are those, of course, who would say that the CIA's wings were simply clipped, that they had been going too far, too fast, too freely.
Oh, there are those who will say anything.
Gehlen helped run counterintelligence programs that monitored the activities of former Nazi scientists once they were brought into the United States, ensuring that they were loyal to their new homeland.
There is always a question whether a democratic country is capable of having an intelligence service of any great merit.
One figure who bridges the gap between science, intelligence, and Nazi war crimes is Reinhard Gehlen. Gehlen was a Nazi intelligence officer who had run the Wehrmacht's intelligence service on the Eastern Front. After the war, Gehlen offered his vast intelligence network to the Americans, promising valuable insight into Soviet military operations.
Thereafter, until his break with Hitler in April 1945, Gehlen reported regularly on all matters to do with Russia's war effort, gathering his information from agents inside the Soviet Union, some inside the Kremlin itself,
Allen Dulles and the CIA embraced him, establishing the Gehlen organization, a secret West German intelligence service that operated under U.S. guidance. The Gehlen organization became a key asset in the early Cold War, though it was staffed by many former Nazis. Operation Paperclip wasn't just about advancing science and technology. It was about creating a powerful network of individuals who could outthink, outmaneuver, and outbuild the Soviets. The ethical lines were blurred and in many cases completely crossed. These scientists, with their dark pasts, weren't simply forgotten. They were actively protected and promoted by the U.S. government.
No, I mean, it's one of the most... a classic, isn't it? It's one of these classic things. It's like when a football team loses, all their money, like going to administration, and people just come in, don't they? Or vultures, they want the best bits, best bits of the football team, or the vultures come in, they want the best bits of the animal that's dead on the floor. And that's no different, is it? It's that mindset of, coming in when someone's or something is no longer, and just basically raiding the best bits. We see it from every walk of life. And
like I say, obviously, as soon as it kind of, it's pretty much as soon as it ended, we were already in a Cold War with Russia. So, like the German espionage unit, they already had tons of information on the Russians. So rather than the Americans start all over again, bring that in. You've already got that up and running. Yeah. So you're, as you say, the same with the football club analogy. If you can go in and pick out the best bits and carry on, but then there's still the ethical side as to how much of it do you let slide? I mean, there were a number of prominent figures at the Nuremberg trials that were hanged for their crimes and so on and so forth, and a number spent years in Spandau prison. But I guess they sort of weighed it up. Exactly, and I guess it comes down to what you can do. I mean, a lot of this thing, when at that level, scientist level, they're not at a level of decision making as such. They're just being told what to do, and they have to do it. Otherwise, they're going to be shot, or they're going to be the next one's on the next one's on the list, prison. Or they're out the door. They lost their job, family, everything. So they're just doing as they're told, pretty much. So it's always a fine line between people, delivering what should be done, and those that are almost doing it out of fear. Yeah. All right, let's keep going. We've got 5 minutes left, and see where it tails off, where it ends up, where they end up ultimately. We'll see if we go down that route.
The damning cases of moral compromise involves the infamous MK Ultra program, which was initiated by the CIA in the 50s. Nazi scientists brought over under Operation Paperclip played a key role in the early stages of this mind control program, which involved unethical experiments on unwitting subjects, including the use of hallucinogenic drugs and psychological torture. Sidney Gottlieb, the CIA officer who ran MK Ultra, reportedly worked with some of these former Nazi scientists to develop methods of controlling the human mind, methods that were disturbingly similar to techniques used in Nazi concentration camps. By the mid-20th century, many of the scientists recruited under Operation Paperclip had become household names. Wernher von Braun was featured on Walt Disney's TV specials, talking about space exploration and the future of mankind's journey to the stars.
Now here's a model, my design for a 4-stage orbital rocket ship. Compared to the unmanned instrument rocket, it is quite large.
Von Braun had gone from a man developing weapons of mass destruction for the Nazis to an American icon, symbolizing the triumph of science and innovation. But what the public didn't see were the compromises that had been made to get there. And these compromises didn't go unnoticed by everyone. Prominent figures like Albert Einstein and Eleanor Roosevelt were vocal critics of Operation Paperclip. Einstein, who had fled Nazi Germany before the war, wrote a letter to President Truman condemning the decision to allow these men into the country.
We are concerned here with an act of humanity.
He believed that the United States was sacrificing its moral integrity for the sake of power, and he was right to question whether these scientists' contributions could ever justify the atrocities they had committed.
True.
But for the U.S. government, it wasn't about morality, it was about survival. The Cold War was a battle for global supremacy, and the Soviet Union was seen as an existential threat.
Yeah, but
they class it as survival. Is it survival? It's just you don't want to be left behind.
Let's put the boot on the other foot, mate. Obviously, Britain and America, responsible for the carpet bombing of many major German cities.
Very true.
They developed the A-bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. So the scientists in that, if we'd have lost the war, would the foot, would have been on the other foot then, and Russia then, coming in and reaping all our scientists for all that knowledge.
True.
So just because we kind of ended up victorious in the war doesn't make us, no less of a. We didn't have concentration camps, but we did some pretty, what needed to be done to get the job done. But at the end of the day, when you step back, you go, was that morally right as well? So again,
a war is not morally right, is it? Because at the end of the day, it's two people at the top ultimately. And
war is not glamorous.
Just get them around the room, go for it.
Yeah.
Forget all the people.
Have a punch up.
That's it. All the lives that are lost because of it. So
put them in the boxing
ring.
The
Americans couldn't afford to let the Soviets get their hands on these scientific minds. National security became the ultimate justification, even if it meant sweeping the horrors of the past under the rug. Operation Paperclip represents one of the most complex moral dilemmas in American history. The questions posed by Operation Paperclip are not just relics of the past, they remain deeply relevant today. In a world still grappling with the ethics of technological progress and global power dynamics, we're often reminded that the pursuit of dominance, whether through scientific innovation, military strength, or intelligence gathering, can come at an immense moral cost. Take, for example, the development of nuclear weapons.
Now I am become death.
The Manhattan Project, led by figures like J. Robert Oppenheimer and Enrico Fermi, was instrumental in creating the atomic bomb, a device that forever changed the nature of warfare. But the lessons learned through Operation Paperclip echo through these projects as well.
Repeating once again our top story, Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev has been removed from power, and there are tanks now in the streets of Moscow. Vice President Gennady Yanayev says he has taken over as acting president.
Even after the Cold War ended, the legacy of Operation Paperclip continued to influence U.S. policy. How far are we willing to push the boundaries of science if it means we gain the upper hand, even if it leaves a trail of destruction in its wake? And what about modern warfare, where technologies such as drones, artificial intelligence, and cyber weapons have emerged as the new frontiers of battle? These innovations, much like the rocket technology developed by von Braun, are impressive on a technical level, but come with their own ethical dilemmas. How do we ensure that technological progress does not come at the expense of humanity? Are we destined to repeat the same mistakes, making compromises in the name of progress? Or can we find a way to advance technology without losing sight of our moral obligations? What do you think? Was Operation Paperclip a necessary evil? Or does it reveal something more troubling about the choices we make in the pursuit of power? If this exploration of Operation Paperclip has made you think twice about the price of scientific advance,
take cyber warfare for instance. We know that there are cyber groups out there that are non-governmental, and there are that are governmental. So you could say, just because they're part of a government, is that ethical? Not really, because they're still looking to attack other governments around the world. So it's just just because there's no weapons involved, there's no one being physically injured, it doesn't mean it's no different to an attack on your world, ultimately, or your country and everyone in your country.
No, I mean the whole moral side of it, like we said, it is I wouldn't have been wanting to be the one making the decisions, but again, if they're bringing that technology or that chemical or whatever over, then you've got the insight into how it's been created. Therefore, you can possibly make the antidote that goes along with it, and so on and so forth. So, I don't know. But I'm saying that, you know, we weren't squeaky clean either. So
no, that is very true. Very, very true. Thank you, Amanda. Another interesting one. Certainly made us debate and chat.
Did.
Hopefully you're sat there thinking the same thing, or maybe slightly different. Let us know in the comments what you think of that. It's always good to hear from you, and what your state of mind is on the situation.
Yeah. But above our pay grade, I'd say.
Oh, above our pay grade, 100%. We just got little tiny cells just bouncing around in the walls of my skull. Anyway, we will be back tomorrow for another reaction. Until then, make sure you hit the subscribe button and come with us at BPR.
Please do.
It's goodbye from me.
And BRITS American Tour up there, just there.
That one.
That's the one. That's the one.
Check it out. Bye.
Bye.